Elak, and I sat in my chair and I tried to return hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of text messages that I hadn't gotten to all day. And one of them was from a homie who works here, and we had been going back and forth, and he had done such a good job on something. So I texted him and I said, "You're the best." And he texted me back and he said, "Thank you." Knowing it sometimes is not enough. Hearing it is great. And I thought about that, and I thought, yeah, see something, say something. It's Thanksgiving. I remember years ago, over 40 years ago, when I entered the Jesuit Society of Jesus, I remember I was in the novitiate place where we began our studies, and I gave a homily, and I thought, wow, that was like one of the best homilies preaching I'd ever heard. Later on in the afternoon, I ran into this old Mexican Jesuit priest, and I said, wow, wasn't that the best? It was like the best homily I'd ever heard. And he said, "Did you tell him?" I said, "No." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, he knows it was good." And the priest shook his head and he said, "Menso cabrón." People want to hear this. People need to hear it. See something, say something. So it reminded me of years ago, I hate to put them on the front page, but Emily and Tammy went with me to San Francisco, and I think it may have been their first flight, judging by how paniqueadas they were on the plane. And we went to the airport, and I went to rent a car, and they were standing off to the side, and I was dealing with the woman at the counter, and they had big sweatshirts on that said Homeboy Industries, jobs not jails. And as I finished my transaction with the woman at the rental car thing, she said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" I said, "No, go ahead." "What's Homeboy Industries?" Pointing to the Tammy and Emily. And I said, "Well, it's the largest gang intervention, rehab, and reentry program in the world. And these two ladies are going to help me speak to 1,000 judges." So we go to San Francisco. Of course, you got to go to Fisherman's Wharf, and we go eat and seafood, that requires a bib, that kind of stuff, and Golden Gate Bridge and crookedest street in the world. We stayed in a fancy hotel thanks to the judges from around the country. And I was going to speak at lunch to all of the judges. Well, they were going to do a workshop, and they did a workshop before lunch to a room full of judges. And so I introduced them. I got up, and their stories were so powerful and so filled with such hardship. And the judges were filled with awe at what these two women had to carry rather than judgment at how they carried it. And many times in the course of the workshop, they stopped and sobbed, as so did all the judges, as the two of them seemed to stare at pieces of their story that only they could see. And at the end of their workshop, a room full of judges from all over the country stood and gave them a standing ovation. The next day we flew home, and we went to Burbank Airport. We went to our car, and Tammy was in the front seat, and Emily was in the back. And I said, "Do you mind?" I always call my mom when I arrive, our 90-year-old mother, and she wants to know if I arrive safely. And they said, "No, go ahead." So I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm home and everything's fine." And she goes, "Remind me again where you were." I said, "Well, we were in San Francisco speaking to 1,000 judges, and these two wonderful women helped do it." "Oh, that's nice. Okay, well, love you. Talk to you later," and ended the conversation. And Tammy in the front seat goes, "Huh?" And I said, "What?" "Oh, nothing." No, really, what?" "Well, I don't know. You called us wonderful women." "Yeah, so?" And she looked at me and her eyes filled up with tears. She said, "Well, when you said it right now, I believed you." Knowing it sometimes is not enough. Hearing it is great. All of you are wonderful. See something, say something. It's Thanksgiving.